I was sitting in the HR office watching Flavia cry and beg for forgiveness. 12 years ago, she made me cry every single night. I never thought I would see her again, and I certainly never imagined she would repeat everything she did back in high school. But she did. She thought I was still that scared, overweight kid who would take her abuse in silence. She was wrong. To understand why she ended up in that chair, let me take you back to where it all began. Before we dive into this story, let me know where you are watching from today. Hit that like button and subscribe if you have ever been hurt by someone who thought they would never face consequences. If you believe that karma eventually catches up to everyone, stay with me until the end. My name is Marcus. When this story began, I was 16 years old, a sophomore in high school, living in a small town in Ohio. I weighed around 240 pounds and stood about 5 feet 8 inches tall. I was not just overweight. I was the kind of kid who made other kids uncomfortable just by existing in the same space. I was shy, painfully shy. I had maybe 2 friends, and even they kept their distance when the popular kids were around. My hobbies were simple. I read books, played video games, and tried my best to be invisible. Being invisible felt safer than being seen. My mom raised me alone. My father left when I was 3, and I have no memory of him. Mom worked 2 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. She was a waitress during the day and cleaned office buildings at night. I barely saw her, but I knew everything she did was for me. We did not have money for gym memberships or organic food. Mom bought what she could afford. Boxed macaroni and cheese, frozen dinners, bags of chips because they were on sale. I knew I was overweight, but I did not know how to change it. I did not even know where to start. School was a daily exercise in survival. I kept my head down, sat in the back of every classroom, and counted the minutes until I could go home. I told myself that if I just made it through high school, everything would be different. I had no idea how much worse things were about to get. Everything changed in the second semester of my sophomore year. That was when Flavia transferred to our school. She walked into our English class on a Tuesday morning, and I swear the room went silent. Flavia had golden blonde hair that fell past her shoulders like something out of a shampoo commercial. Her eyes were a striking shade of blue, and she had the kind of slim figure that made every girl jealous and every boy stare. She wore designer clothes, carried a brand-name purse, and smiled like she knew exactly how beautiful she was. Within a week, Flavia became the queen of our school. She sat with the cheerleaders at lunch. She dated the captain of the football team. She had more Instagram followers than anyone in our grade. Teachers loved her because she was polite and charming. Students loved her because being near her meant being somebody. I watched her from a distance like everyone else. But unlike everyone else, I made the mistake of hoping. One day in English class, all the seats were taken except the one next to me. Flavia had no choice but to sit there. My heart was pounding so loud I was sure she could hear it. Halfway through the lesson, she leaned over and whispered, "Can I borrow a pen? I forgot mine." My hands were shaking as I handed her my pen. She smiled and said, "Thanks." That was it. One word. One smile. But for a kid like me, it felt like the sun breaking through years of clouds. I replayed that moment in my head for days. I convinced myself it meant something. I convinced myself I had a chance. 2 weeks later, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I decided to write Flavia a letter. I stayed up until 2 in the morning pouring my heart onto paper. I told her I thought she was beautiful. I told her I admired how confident she was. I told her I knew I was not the kind of guy girls like her noticed, but I wanted her to know that someone saw her as more than just a pretty face. I wanted her to know she made my days brighter just by being in the same room. I read that letter 100 times. I thought it was perfect. I thought it was romantic. The next morning, I slipped the letter into Flavia's locker before first period. Then I waited. I sat alone at my usual table in the cafeteria, my leg bouncing with nervous energy. I imagined her reading my words, maybe smiling, maybe thinking I was sweet. The cafeteria doors swung open and Flavia walked in with her group of friends. She was holding something in her hand. My letter. She climbed onto a table in the center of the room. Everyone stopped talking. Everyone turned to look. And then she started reading, out loud, to the entire school. She read every word I had written, but she did not just read them. She performed them. She made her voice high and whiny, mocking me. She added dramatic pauses for effect. Her friends were laughing so hard they were crying. When she finished, she held up the letter and said, "This is from Marcus, the fat kid who sits in the back of English class. He actually thinks he has a chance with me." The cafeteria erupted in laughter. Flavia was not done. She pointed at me and said, "He stares at me every single day like some kind of creep. It is honestly disgusting. Someone needs to tell him that guys like him do not get girls like me. Ever." I wanted to run. I wanted to disappear, but my body would not move. I sat there frozen while 300 students laughed at me. Tears were streaming down my face, and I could not stop them. The laughter echoed off the walls, and I felt like I was drowning in it. That was the day everything changed. That was the day I became a target. After that day in this cafeteria, I was no longer invisible. I was infamous. Everyone knew my name, but not for any reason I would have wanted. I became known as Creepy Fatso. That was what they called me in the hallways and the locker rooms in the parking lot. Sometimes they would just make oinking sounds when I walked by. Flavia made sure everyone knew about the letter. She told people I had been stalking her, following her around school, watching her through windows. None of it was true. I had barely looked at her before that day. But the truth did not matter. Flavia was popular and I was nobody. Her word was law. Nobody wanted to be seen with me. The two friends I had started avoiding me. They said they were sorry, but they could not afford to be associated with the school creep. I understood. I hated them for it, but I understood. I started eating lunch in the bathroom. I would lock myself in a stall, sit on the toilet lid, and eat my sandwich in silence. The smell was awful, but it was better than the cafeteria. At least in the bathroom, no one could see me cry. Every morning, I begged my mom to let me stay home. She would ask what was wrong, and I would make up excuses. Headaches, stomach aches, anything to avoid another day at school. She knew something was wrong, but I could not bring myself to tell her the truth. I did not want her to know how pathetic her son was. Flavia and her friends did not stop at words. They got creative with their cruelty. One afternoon, I was walking down the hallway between classes when I felt something cold and wet pour over my head. Flavia and two of her friends had dumped an entire bottle of soda on me. Orange soda. It soaked through my hair, dripped down my face, and stained my only decent shirt. They ran away laughing while everyone else just watched. I went to the bathroom and tried to clean myself up, but the stickiness would not come out. I smelled like artificial orange for the rest of the day. A teacher asked me what happened, and I said I spilled it on myself. I was too embarrassed to tell the truth. Another time, I found a note taped to my back. I did not notice it until after my last class when someone finally told me. The note said, "Warning creep, do not approach." I had been walking around school all day with that sign on my back while everyone laughed behind me. The worst was the day they locked me in the locker room. After gym class, I was changing in the corner, trying to hide my body from everyone else. I heard the door slam and the lock click. I ran to the door and tried to open it, but it would not budge. I was trapped in there for over 2 hours. I banged on the door until my fists were raw. I yelled until my voice went hoarse. Nobody came. When the janitor finally let me out, he asked why I had been in there so long. I said I lost track of time. But the physical stuff was nothing compared to what Flavia's boyfriend did to me. His name was Derek. He was the starting quarterback, 6 feet 2 inches of muscle and arrogance. He and Flavia were the perfect couple, the king and queen of our school. One day, Derek found me alone behind the gym. I was sitting on the ground reading a book, trying to escape reality for a few minutes. His shadow fell over me, and I looked up to see him cracking his knuckles. "I heard you have been looking at my girlfriend," he said. "I have not," I whispered. "I swear." He did not care. He punched me in the stomach so hard I doubled over and vomited. Then he kicked me while I was down. 3 times, maybe 4. I lost count. "Stay away from Flavia," he said. "If I catch you looking at her again, I will do worse." I crawled home that day with bruises covering my ribs and stomach. When my mom saw me, I told her I fell down some stairs. She looked at me with such concern, such love, and I lied right to her face. I was too ashamed to tell her the truth. My grades started falling. I could not concentrate in class because I was always watching for the next attack. I stopped doing homework because what was the point? I stopped caring about anything. I just wanted to survive until graduation. The worst night of my life was prom. I had no intention of going. I knew it would be a disaster, but my mom had been saving money for months to buy me a suit. She showed it to me with such pride, such hope in her eyes. She said, "You deserve to have a good memory from high school." I could not break her heart, so I went. I stood in the corner of the gymnasium trying to be invisible again. The decorations were beautiful, the music was loud, everyone was dancing and laughing and having the time of their lives. I just wanted to leave. Then the moment came for the prom king and queen announcement. No surprise, Flavia won queen. She walked up to the stage in a sparkly silver dress, a crown on her head, looking like a princess from a fairy tale. She took the microphone and said, "I want to thank someone very special tonight." My blood ran cold. She pointed directly at me and said, "I want to thank Marcus. Without him, I would not have had anything to laugh about for the past 4 years. He made high school so entertaining." Everyone laughed. Every single person in that room laughed at me. I ran out of the gymnasium and did not stop until I reached my mom's car. I sat in the driver's seat and sobbed for 2 hours. I cried until I had nothing left. I cried until my chest hurt and my eyes were swollen shut. That night, I made myself a promise. I swore that I would never let anyone make me feel that way again. I did not know how I would keep that promise, but I meant it with every fiber of my being. After graduation, I left Ohio and never looked back. I moved to Seattle as far away from my hometown as I could get. I enrolled in community college, then transferred to a university. I studied computer science because I wanted a career that would let me be successful without depending on anyone else. I also started taking care of myself. I joined a cheap gym near my apartment and started going every morning before class. I learned about nutrition by reading books and watching videos online. I stopped eating fast food and started cooking my own meals. Brown rice, grilled chicken, vegetables. It was not exciting, but it was fuel. The weight did not come off overnight. It took years of discipline, years of saying no to temptation, years of pushing through when I wanted to quit. But slowly, pound by pound, I transformed. By the time I was 25, I had lost 80 pounds. I was not just thinner, I was stronger. I was healthier. I was someone I could be proud of. I got a job at a tech company in Seattle as a junior developer. I worked hard, learned fast, and got promoted twice in 3 years. By 28, I was a senior developer leading my own team and earning more money than my mom had ever seen in her life. The first thing I did with my savings was buy my mom an apartment near me. She cried when I gave her the keys. She said she was proud of me. That meant more than any promotion ever could. I had built a good life. I had a career I loved, a body I was comfortable in, and peace of mind I never thought I would find. The memories of high school faded into the background. I rarely thought about Flavia or Derek or any of them. That chapter of my life was closed, or so I thought. One Monday morning, I got an email from HR announcing a new hire joining our department. I was in back-to-back meetings all day, so I did not get a chance to meet the new person. That afternoon, I walked to the break room to get a cup of coffee. I was looking at my phone, not paying attention to my surroundings. I reached for the coffee pot and looked up. Flavia was standing right in front of me. For a moment, I thought I was hallucinating. It had been 10 years. She had changed, but not enough that I did not recognize her. The golden hair was shorter now, cut to her shoulders. Her face had lost some of its youthful glow, but those blue eyes were unmistakable. She recognized me too, but her reaction was different. Her eyes went wide with shock. She looked me up and down, taking in my transformation. "Marcus," she said, "is that really you? Oh my God, you look so different." I did not know what to say. My heart was pounding, but not with excitement, with dread, with anger, with 100 emotions I thought I had buried years ago. "Yes," I said, "it is me." I turned around and walked away without another word. I went straight to my desk and sat there staring at my computer screen, unable to focus on anything. My hands were shaking. The memories I had worked so hard to forget came flooding back. The cafeteria, the laughter, the locker room, the prom. Why? Out of all the companies in all the cities in the country, why did she have to end up here? The first week, Flavia tried to be friendly. She would come by my desk and ask questions about the company. She complimented my appearance, saying things like, "You really changed so much, you look amazing," and "What gym do you go to? You have to tell me your secret." I kept my answers short. Yes, no. I do not know. I did not want to be rude, but I also did not want to engage with her. I just wanted her to leave me alone. But Flavia was not used to being ignored. She was used to being adored. When she realized I was not going to fawn over her like I did in high school, something shifted. The comments started. At first, they were subtle. She would mention our high school in front of other coworkers, little references that only I would understand. Then, she started getting bolder. She told people that we went to school together that I used to have a crush on her. She made it sound innocent, but I knew what she was doing. Then she started calling me names again, not to my face but behind my back. A coworker named Amanda pulled me aside one day and told me what Flavia had been saying. "She told us you used to stalk her in high school," Amanda said. "She called you a creep. She said she is uncomfortable working with you." My stomach dropped. It was happening all over again. Flavia grew bolder with each passing week. In a team meeting, she casually mentioned that I had a history of making women uncomfortable. She joked about my weight, saying, "Marcus used to be a lot bigger back in the day, if you know what I mean." She laughed like it was funny. Nobody else laughed. She even went to HR. She filed an informal complaint saying that I was making her uneasy and that she felt unsafe around me. She had no evidence because there was nothing to have evidence of. I had barely spoken to her since she arrived. I knew I had to do something. I was not 16 anymore. I was not powerless. I was not going to let her destroy my reputation and my career the way she destroyed my high school experience. I started documenting everything. Every comment she made, I wrote it down with the date and time. Every email she sent, I saved it. Every interaction we had, I made a note of it. I was building a case. Amanda and 2 other coworkers agreed to be witnesses. They had heard Flavia's comments firsthand. They were willing to tell HR what they had seen and heard. After 3 weeks of documentation, I sent an email to HR with everything I had gathered. I requested a formal meeting to discuss workplace harassment. I was calm. I was professional. I was prepared. HR scheduled a meeting for the following Monday. Flavia, me, and 2 HR representatives. When Flavia walked into the conference room, she looked confident. She smiled at me like she had already won. She had no idea what was coming. The HR manager asked me to present my concerns first. I laid out everything: the comments about my past, the jokes about my weight, the lies she was spreading about me being a stalker, the false complaints she filed. I had dates, times, and witnesses. When I finished, Flavia's smile was gone. "This is ridiculous," she said. "He is twisting everything. Marcus was obsessed with me in high school. He followed me around. He wrote me creepy letters. He is doing the same thing now, and I am the victim here." The HR manager looked at her and asked, "Do you have any evidence to support these claims?" Flavia hesitated. "Well, no, but everyone at our school knew about it." "Do you have any witnesses from the workplace who can corroborate that Marcus has behaved inappropriately toward you?" "No, but that does not mean it did not happen." The HR manager turned to me. "Do you have witnesses?" I nodded. "I have 3 coworkers who are willing to testify that Flavia has repeatedly made derogatory comments about me, spread false information about my character, and created a hostile work environment." Flavia's face went pale. The meeting continued for another hour. By the end, the conclusion was clear. Flavia had violated the company's anti-harassment policy. There was no evidence that I had done anything wrong. All the evidence pointed to her as the aggressor. Flavia started crying. Real tears this time, not the performative kind she used in high school. "I am so sorry," she sobbed. "I was just joking. I did not mean any of it. Please, I need this job. I will do anything." I looked at her, and for a moment I saw the scared, desperate person behind the cruelty. But then I remembered every tear I cried because of her, every bruise I hid from my mother, every night I spent wishing I could disappear. 12 years ago. I said, "You told everyone it was just a joke too. It was not a joke then, and it is not a joke now." HR made their decision. Flavia was terminated immediately for violating workplace policies. She was escorted out of the building that same day. I watched her go, and I felt something I did not expect. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just closure. After Flavia was fired, my coworkers came up to me one by one to offer their support. Amanda gave me a hug and said, "You did the right thing. Nobody deserves to be treated like that." That evening, I drove to my mom's apartment. I sat on her couch, and for the first time in my life, I told her everything. I told her about the letter in the cafeteria. I told her about the bullying and the beatings. I told her about prom and the years of silence. She cried. She held my hand and cried. "Why did you never tell me?" she asked. "I was ashamed," I said. "I did not want you to think I was weak." She looked me in the eyes and said, "You are the strongest person I know." In the weeks that followed, I made a decision. I started seeing a therapist for the first time in my life. I had been carrying the weight of high school for over a decade, and it was time to finally let it go. My therapist helped me understand something important. I was never the problem. I was never a creep. I was just a lonely kid who wanted to be loved. There was nothing wrong with that letter I wrote. The only wrong thing was how Flavia chose to respond to it. I learned to forgive myself, including the overweight, scared version of me from high school. That kid did the best he could with what he had. He survived. He made it out. He became someone he could be proud of. A few months later, I started volunteering with an organization that fights against school bullying. I shared my story with teenagers who were going through the same thing I went through. I told them that it gets better, that high school is not forever, that the people who hurt you do not get to define who you become. 1 year after Flavia was fired, Amanda and I started dating. She had seen me at my most vulnerable, and she chose to stand by me anyway. On our first date, she told me something I will never forget. "I love who you are," she said. "Not what you look like, not what you used to be, just you." I think that was the moment I finally understood what it meant to be truly seen. Flavia taught me something, though, not in the way she intended. She taught me that some people never change. She was the same person at 28 that she was at 16. Still cruel, still entitled, still convinced the rules did not apply to her. But I changed. I grew. I became stronger, not just physically, but emotionally. I learned that the only person who gets to define my worth is me. I do not hate Flavia. Honestly, I pity her. She peaked in high school, and she has been trying to relive that glory ever since. She will probably spend her whole life wondering why things keep falling apart for her, never realizing that she is the common denominator in all her failures. As for me, I am at peace. I have a job I love, a woman who loves me, and a mother who is finally proud of the man I have become. The scars from high school are still there, but they no longer define me. They are just reminders of how far I have come. If you are watching this and you are being bullied right now, I want you to know something. The people who hurt you only have power because you give it to them. One day, you will be free of them. One day, you will build a life so beautiful that they will be nothing but a distant memory. And if they ever try to come back and tear you down again, you will be strong enough to stand your ground. The kid who cried in the cafeteria grew up to be a man who looked his bully in the eye and said, "Not anymore." And that is how she got fired. Now I have a question for you. Have you ever encountered someone from your past who tried to hurt you again? How did you handle it? Let me know in the comments below. I would love to hear your stories. If this video touched you in any way, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And if you are new here, consider subscribing so you do not miss more stories like this one. Do not forget to share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you strength, peace, and the courage to stand up for yourself whenever life demands it. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one.